Now that you've completed the orientation video and looked over the supplementary material in your packet, you should be getting a clearer understanding of just how much your efforts contribute to the success of the library and how much they benefit your community. In your role as a trustee, your key areas of responsibility include library governance, advocacy, fundraising, policies, and public relations. As a district consultant for several libraries, Lisa Reeves Collins sees how those strengths can benefit the library and community.
I think library trustees truly are an essential component of a successful library. My experience as a district consultant really has been that libraries with strong trustee groups are strong libraries. They are libraries that are vibrant, they are libraries that have the support of their community, and they are libraries that have directors and staff that are working with them to do the very best that they can. I believe strongly that library trustees are an essential component of a strong library, and I truly believe that library trustees have the opportunity to change their community for the better, and that can happen through their library.
So how do you make that change happen? How do you serve your community today? A nationally recognized nonprofit consultant, Michael Coomer, says the answer is by focusing on tomorrow.
The fundamental role of a trustee and a full board is to create the future. And when we say create the future, what we mean is that the very best boards of directors that we've seen nationally and the very best individual trustees that we've been able to observe spend a large share of their time, energy, and attention creating a dynamic, thriving, long-term future for the community served by the library. So essentially what they do is they imagine the kind of community all of us would like to live, work, play, raise a family, and then they determine how can the library occupy a catalytic role in helping to create that ideal community. So we want to see trustees spend a lion's share of their time, energy, and attention focused on a long-term future defined by 10 years out, 5 years out, and 3 years out.
How can your library's ideal future be realized? Often the key to implementing those plans is adequate funding. Finding the money through individual, municipal, and corporate sources is one of the trustees' most important jobs.
Trustees should be intimately up to their noses involved in fund development. I think that's one of their primary responsibilities as a director, or as a trustee, I should say. Ideally, the trustees come from strength in the community, from many different industries with knowledge of the movers and shakers in their home communities, and can very effectively advocate for funds coming to the library from industry, from local government, from individuals, from about every source that's out there. That, I really do think, is one of the primary responsibilities of a trustee.
Your personal financial gift to the library reaffirms your commitment to public libraries and sets an example for others to follow.
Something we learned very important at the Trustee Institute, I think number one, even my board realized if you want to go to the community asking for money, you have to give first. So when we did this fund drive in March, everybody from my board donated. And then number two, they also realized come to the fund drive, it's people give to people. So you really have to go to the person and ask them for help.
I agree that a trustee should be committed to the library. And to that, that includes the volunteering of time as well as making financial commitments when, say, a pledge drive comes out, that sort of a thing. I believe that the wherewithal of everyone differs from person to person. So for one person it'll be a different amount. For another person it might be more, it might be less. So they need to be able to give what they're comfortable with. Someone that is sitting on a board is probably already passionate about a library, so it shouldn't be a hurting thing to be contributing money. Libraries definitely need the money. They definitely need the time of volunteers too, and a trustee position, of course, is a volunteer position. I've made a deliberate effort to be involved with the Friends and the fundraising that they've done. I've gone out and assisted our director. We have 5 municipalities that support us. She gives the formal presentation with all the statistics. I give a second presentation of about 5 minutes that just talks to the people side of it, humanizes the statistics that she gives. There's a gray area there that makes her uncomfortable in that, basically doing a plea before a municipality can feel to some people like they are begging to keep their job, to keep their salary coming. So having a trustee who is a volunteer, who has no vested interest, coming and making that same sort of an argument as to why these municipalities should continue to fund us, I think carries a lot more clout, a lot more weight.
Individuals, municipal officials, and corporate representatives will respond to an appeal that stresses the role of the library within the community.
You know, libraries are very interesting because people perceive libraries as these frame buildings with books. But libraries are so much more. And also people perceive librarians as people who are there to give you books. But librarians do so much more. So, when you have a presence like this in a community, you also have kind of a community center. You have a place where people come in, they go out of, people talk, people see people meet people. Aside from, obviously, a part of his mission, which is to provide information, whether it's technology or whether it's in written form.
Michael Coomer passionately believes that trustees for public libraries should reflect and benefit the communities they serve.
The moral ownership of the library rests with the community. There is no such thing as legal ownership for nonprofit organizations. So instead we talk about moral ownership. The moral ownership of the library is the community that it exists to serve. The board of directors serves to represent the community. So the question we want to address is, how best can we establish a board of directors positioned to represent the community? And one of the ways to effectuate that is through term limits.
Term limits are probably one of the most controversial topics that you can think about when you talk about board relations and board development. And much of what we see really recommends that term limits are beneficial. People often look at term limits and say, but what if we get a wonderful person on the board and we don't want to lose that person? We don't want to lose the institutional knowledge or the wisdom or the connections that that person brings to our board. I'd like to suggest that term limits are really part of a whole cycle of board development that begins with recruiting and developing potential board members, giving as many people in the community as possible an opportunity to serve on the board, and then finding a way for people who have been very valuable as board members to continue to serve the library in another capacity, maybe on a fundraising committee, maybe on a special project, maybe with the Friends of the Library. Term limits really give the library an opportunity to get their case out to as many segments of the population as possible. There are so many people who could bring some valuable expertise to the library. But if you don't have term limits, if you have people who can stay on a library board for 30, 40, 50 years, you're not giving other people an opportunity to get in there and show you what they can do for your library.
By respecting the need for term limits and carefully selecting qualified candidates as new trustees, you create a board that's as dynamic as the library and community it serves.
It is absolutely essential to have term limits because what you want to see is a large group of people in the community, all of whom have different skills, really being able to use those skills for the support of the library. If you don't have term limits, essentially what you do is you reduce that pool of individuals, and you might miss that person in your community that has the fundraising expertise, that has the law background, that has the background with children's education. And when you do that, you're shortchanging the library because you're just getting the same set of skills and you're just getting the same perspective. We want our libraries to be vibrant places. We want them to be places that grow. And in order for that to happen, we have to have trustees that have a bunch of different skills that they can help the library grow with.
Those varied skills will be helpful in managing the varied responsibilities of a public library trustee. You'll be called upon to hire a library director, manage key relationships, be a vocal advocate, participate actively in fundraising, attend meetings, plan for the future, manage policies, and maintain your facilities. We'll address many of these responsibilities in more detail in the following videos. We're confident that you'll continue the legacy of success left by former trustees. Lisa Reeves Collins shares the sentiments of many people when she remarks on the accomplishments of those who accepted this honor before you.
Just look at everything that you've created throughout this state. There are some amazing libraries, incredible programs, invigorated people, youth that are going on to become library patrons now that they're adults. Trustees are really a part of what of making that happen, and they really are not just living in the past, but their work will go on to the future as we get that new crop of trustees that's hopefully coming from those children that they helped support when they were trustees.
I like the books here about princesses, fairy tales, and goosebumps, and dinosaurs, and trains, and dogs. They're all here.